And so let's get some terminology out of the way. So there's actually 4 types of hypermobility. There is historical, meaning your joints went past end range in the past, but now they no longer do. There's peripheral, your hands and your feet only are hypermobile. There is localized, just one area, maybe your shoulder is hypermobile. And then what we're going to be talking about for these conditions is generalized joint hypermobility. This means 5 or more of your joints are hypermobile, meaning they go past the end range of motion that is deemed normal. And it can be any 5 joints. And so there's this misconception that the Baton scale is the only scale you can use to see if someone has generalized joint hypermobility. That is not true. The Baton scale just tests 9 joints in your body. There's so many more joints than just 9 joints in our body. And so we need to really be taking a whole body approach. And if you see somebody, a patient that has 5 or more joints in their entire system that goes past end range, this is something to explore. When it comes to generalized joint hypermobility, there is such thing as asymptomatic. This can be very confusing for the social media world and your patients. They might come to you and say, I saw on social media that I can bend my elbows like that. Do I have this condition? And I think it's really important that we know you can have completely asymptomatic generalized joint hypermobility. Look at Simone Biles. I don't think she's dealing with any of this stuff, and she's definitely hypermobile. So this is very common to be hypermobile, especially in females, especially females in those sports that we talked about prior. Also, if they're coming to you, they probably have symptoms. So that one might not be what you're dealing with specifically, but it's still really important for you to know. The main bulk is going to be symptomatic, meaning they have chronic pain or some sort of symptom that is bringing them into your office. And there are 2 different ways that we can become hypermobile. The first is acquired, meaning you got this from something. You weren't born with it, whether that's a car accident, trauma in general from your sports in general. There's something called overstretching in the gymnastics and cheer world, which is where you go past your end range in a split or any stretch, and then you have weight put onto you. That can cause generalized symptomatic joint hypermobility and should never be done, and it does not need to be done. And then the word that you might see for this type of condition is HSD, which stands for hypermobile spectrum disorder. We're going to get to that more so in a second. The second is genetic. These are your genetic connective tissue disorders. There is so many genetic connective tissue disorders. Most common are Marfan's, which is mainly in men, and then EDS, which is mainly in females. There are 14 types of EDS. For the rest of this presentation, we are going to be specifically talking about the most common type, which is HEDS, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. There's also Loeys-Dietz syndrome and many, many more genetic connective tissue disorders. The ones that you're mainly going to be dealing with are going to be these first 3.